right, and we join a testing game impression between Kendall, who you guys have seen on the channel before, and Jonathan, who is joining us because he is cool.
Yes, I like being cool. Anyway, hi everybody. I'm Jonathan. I am Jonathan. I go by John for short, just to make it easier for shorthand. So yeah, John is fine. And I am testing. Do we want to introduce the deck names or?
I think we pretty much have an idea of what they are, so we may as well introduce them to the.
Okay, so I am testing a rug kind of Turboland brew, and it also would help if I were able to always tapping the manas before actually resolving the miracle trigger. But I'm testing a rug kind of Turboland brew. It's kind of in the spirit of the Woo brews, but it's a little bit more lower costed in terms of not aiming for the omniscience plan and trying to aim for multiple planeswalker activations through temporal mastery plus increasing vengeance. And I'm just trying to talk and play at the same time is always difficult. Used to it with Go, but not with Magics yet. But basically trying to use use that in the temporal mastery plus increasing vengeance interaction, and then gain extra turns. Use multiple planeswalker activations to grind out a card, grind out a card advantage, just grind out a general advantage, and then go from there.
I gotta say the temporal mastery mirror is funny.
It is indeed.
Go ahead, Kendall.
It is very much so.
We both cast our explorers on turn 3.
I know it's such a nice thing to have a blue explorer.
Mm-hmm.
People say that and make fun of it, and it's like, I actually really like the card Explorer, so I'm okay with that.
Explorer was an awesome card. I mean, it was fantastic, and also just to apologize in advance because I've not played, and also just because of the fact that I have not played Magic as much while actually doing commentary and recording videos. So my thought process is it's a little bit harder for me to do that than it is with Go. So I'm still just to apologize for any kind of delays in thought process. But basically, it's interesting. The card, even at 2 mana, just for value, it's really, the card itself is so awesome. It's really neat. Doesn't always have to be for the full blown out insanity.
See, I see you've got Thragtusk here to buy some time.
Indeed.
I like puns a bit too much for my own good, John. This is your only warning. Run while you can.
I like it. More puns. Puns are good.
Yeah, like you were saying, I'm still pretty new at this, so I'm still getting used to talking while playing, or even just talking while not playing. I'm kind of bad at it, so that's part of why I'm practicing. It's just always fun to get good at stuff you're really bad at.
Yes, exactly. It's not. It does take some. It's also a lot of polish too. Like when I'm recording my content for students and such, it really requires. There's often a lot of scrapped videos and a lot of throwing, cursing and like, oh, how did I blow that? Just to kind of completely wreck the video, like maybe midway through, just make some kind of horrible blunder and just to start stumbling or something like that. I'm actually reading Sylvan Primordial.
It destroys a land and ramps him.
Interesting. Yeah, it's kind of takes a little bit of flavor from Reap and Sow.
Yep.
Yeah.
My question: why did you fog there? When I've seen Woo do his turbo fog, for example, he'll generally save it a lot later and take some damage and kind of use his health as a resource. For example, next turn, obviously, you'll have 11 coming at you, and it seems like it might be worth saving it for them.
And that is I think that's absolutely correct too. I think I'm just too used to the. Probably too used to playing the more aggressive matchups where they're playing mono red, and of course I have not actually taken the deck into because I've been mainly have not had the time to really get to the point of using. Well, also because I'm talking too. That's also probably a good reason. But I think part of it is just being used to the aggressive matchups, but also trying to protect your life total a little bit too aggressively, and just not being used to just been so long since I've played that. It's not really being used to just taking your time and not really having to worry about things like just the pressure's not as big a deal.
Mm-hmm.
I think also sometimes when you're playing turbo fog type things, you just fog all the time. And I mean, maybe he's got 7 fogs in his hand. I don't know.
Yeah, I certainly don't know. I mean, he could have Sphinx's Revelation into 3 more fogs in his hand. So.
Yep. That's the other thing too. Is also when you have somebody that is true because the way that the decks play, I'm sure there's probably a trend also with a lot of the decks. You generally don't run out of fogs too much. You have, and also if you're running Snapcast, some of the builds don't run like the Turbo Fog build I saw at least recently did not play Snapcasters. The one that I think Matt Nass was testing with that's been showing up recently, like Ban Turbo Fog. It didn't really run any kind of Snapcaster plan from what I saw. At least some of the lists don't. So I think in that situation you really have to conserve your defensive cards. But with Snapcaster Mage, it really you generally are going to have it pretty consistently. It's not really too big a deal. So not too. But again, though, it's not really defensible in terms of you do have to be careful to think about really. You're at 20. Do you really have to worry about taking 5 damage? I think the other thing that also is important to know, that also like in terms of oof. Yeah, let's try that one again. In terms of the decision-making process, taking 5 when it's I guess a planeswalker. That's the other thing, because really this specific build is very reliant on the planeswalker plan and not really going for the omniscience plan. There's definitely that's also really important in trying to make sure that you are protecting your planeswalkers. That's a big thing, and making sure my mana's tapped correctly, but trying to protect them is also, that's when you have to use fogs. It's a little more important than, say, because it's not always going to the face.
I'm curious, I keep getting game create failed notices popping up. I'll have to restart my computer later. Anyway,
that is a bug with the client. I don't know exactly what the issue is caused, or what the actual the under the hood issue, like what exactly is doing it, because I'm not a programmer, so I don't know the details behind it, but I do know that it is an issue, and I believe Wizards is well aware of it.
Okay,
so
I'm glad to know it's not just me.
No, definitely not just you. It's just Wizards. It's just a client issue, and they're aware of it. But unfortunately, when is it going to get fixed? I don't know. I haven't seen any mention of when it's going to be dealt with. So hopefully it will be dealt with soon, because it is pretty frustrating that it keeps coming up. So we'll have to. I'm just hoping that it gets done soon.
I think I misplayed there.
Really?
Yeah, I should have cast this first main phase.
Temporal?
I already cast.
Yes.
Yeah. Fair enough.
Then I could have gotten through.
Yep.
Because you have no targets.
Yep. No legal targets. So that is. Oops. Actually, that's my phone. Let me see if I need to mute for a moment. No. Just we'll let that go. Unfortunately, the problem with my home line is that there's a base station in the same room as the computer, along with multiple phones. So of course I can turn off one of them, but then I can't stop the others. Yeah, and I'm also getting wrecked here pretty hard by the both planeswalkers go down, and unfortunately it's going to be probably will have to concede.
Yeah, it looks like a rough spot.
Yep.
I think
maybe
that
you got fog.
Yeah, maybe not.
for what it's worth, I think that you guys both have a lot more relatively high power decks to test with tonight than I do. I've got the Kevlar Ooze deck, and I've got Zombies, which is something like a deck that was once standard playable, but I also have some really bad brews.
Yes.
Someday you'll have to see the abomination that is my rat discard deck.
Oh goodness! Oh no, that sounds pretty entertaining. I think, yeah, that is the one problem. Also, is that I will note as part of a pre-testing note, one of the things, the questions that I'm trying to figure in regards to the decks, one of the deck's weaknesses, and one of the things I've been noticing is an issue with the build, is that this is from my end. It's a rug Turboland deck, so it doesn't have any. It does not opt for the 5-color or 4-color plan going into white for Sphinx's Revelation and Supreme Verdict. So one of the issues that I'm trying to work with in terms of trying to experiment with only rug and not going into white is you don't really have you're kind of soft to certain angles, like what's it called? Boros Reckoner is a little bit of an issue because Blasphemous Act is one of the main sweepers in red, and you don't really want a Blasphemous Act of Reckoner, so you don't really have a lot of other mass removable plans because you don't. What I found is you don't really want to be doing any kind of spot removal in the deck. It's not really that doesn't really work that well.
What about Garrick Relentless?
Garrick is currently in the sideboard, but the problem with Garrick is that it doesn't really work too well in. And I have to think again. I have to think for a moment. Yeah, Garrick Relentless. He's an awesome card, and I really like him. The problem with him is that, in general, he's he does not protect himself particularly well, partly because he has a low starting loyalty, and also because if he... That's what I needed to say. So he has a low starting loyalty, but also the fact that he is soft against flyers. He doesn't really play very well when you have, say, Lingering Souls tokens or other kinds of things going on there. But also the fact that... Let's have to do some more math. Okay. So the fact that he also is just the Lingering Souls tokens, any other kinds of flyers. Falcon sorry, I've already recorded a bunch of Go videos today, so obviously that definitely was... There was also stumbling in those too. It was just tripping everywhere in terms of, like, you're missing colors, like you're confusing black with white, and then also like saying like something like, say, Hane when it's really an extend or other kinds of things. So it's been kind of an amusing session of recordings. But basically the one issue that Falcon with Aristocrat is another card as an aside that I found was an issue. Partly, I mean, Supreme Verdict also Supreme Verdict also it plays well against it if you have other creatures to sack to it. But those are the two cards right now that I've been thinking about. Just gonna cash Jason here, but those are the things that I've been. Two angles that, unfortunately, it's not just Reckoner and Aristocrat. It's also the fact that Blasphemous Act. Unfortunately, there are situations. Oh, and there goes the phone again. This is that's fun. Yeah, it's not for me. Just gonna try to turn that off. So unfortunately, I try to. It's one of the annoying things about the phones that it kind of interrupts the recordings that I do at times. But
So I guess I'm going to jump in here. The thing about Garrick Relentless, you got to realize that it's not a Planeswalker; it's a removal spell that sometimes is a Planeswalker.
Yes.
So I think that there are a lot of situations where he's a lot better than you think he is, because sometimes you just need a spot removal spell, and a lot of times you're going to be able to flip him, and if you can tick him up in a grindy matchup when he's on his flip side, I mean, I don't know, in the more control-y decks where you don't have that many creatures, he's not quite as good, but I mean, he's a lot better than you think he is, and he only costs 4. I mean, that's sort of the thing. Like, a 4-mana removal spell is there are worse things.
I'm totally fine with that. It's more the fact that it's just there are situations where there's a lot of positions that come up where he just doesn't really work as well as I'd liked him to, and it's not, and that's why I still love the card all the same. But he's very, I would say, situational is probably a good way to describe him. There are definitely positions where he just really does not play very well, and that's something that has led me. I still like the card. Oh, look at that! The card is still totally fine, but it's that. But also the fact that, again, the flyers are just that's also a very
the only flyers in the format that are relevant are those two cards that you mentioned, and in a deck that plays Falcon Wrath Aristocrat, the rest of the deck is 2/2s. So he's very good in that, in that situation, and then a deck and then just nobody's playing Lingering Souls. I mean, it's just not.
It's sad.
it just doesn't have a deck right now in the metagame. So I wouldn't worry too much about him. And even so, you can you can still snipe one of their tokens and he gains a little bit of life, and sometimes that's all you need.
Right.
So even in those bad situations, he's still pretty good. And he's very good against aggressive decks or control decks, which is what where we're at.
Yes, that's also true. I also for the record too, because I've been busy, I've not been able to follow the metagame like extremely closely, but enough that I can kind of have a rough idea of things. So the card is definitely, I'm testing the card on the sideboard right now just as a one of, and Garruk Primal Hunter being the main kind of Garruk kind of effect, like the green planeswalker for generating creatures and drawing cards. So that's the test, that's the idea right now. And then the sideboard plan is testing like how Garruk plays in how he does in that kind of a context, how he and for rewarding him in for the appropriate matchups. So now I have to decide.
So for the record, you just resolved your 4th temporal mastery this game.
I did.
That's an achievement right there.
You could say it's something that he's mastered.
As Mike Flores likes to say, achievement unlocked. So that is pretty fun. Yeah, the deck is, like I said, that's one of the reasons why I was drawn to the deck for the first place, was the fact that it just has a very good play to it. It's not doing things like Omniscience. It's not doing things like it's also not Sphinx's Revelationing, which is also it kind of is tough to not have that kind of raw card draw. But and also the life gain does matter too. But I guess you could say it's a little more underpowered relative to those, say, Omniscience style brews. But I really like I guess when I'd say consistency of it, it's a little bit more reasonable in terms of trying to aim for maybe 5 mana or 6 mana as opposed to 10.
You can actually cast more of your cards.
Yes, exactly. So that's why I've been really feeling more favored towards this style of brew. And I probably am going to have to try playing without talking during the game, because it's until I'm more used to it, because this is definitely definitely takes time to get used to. It's tough.
Sure, and Kendall and I can always talk and discuss the issues of the game while you're playing.
I know how to talk.
Oh.
That's okay. You don't get any more extra turns.
I don't get any more extra turns, sadly. No, getting them countered with a syncopate effect or dissipate effect to be able to snapcast them back. Finally, but that's the other thing, and that's another addition I like to say with the mastery plan, is that the increasing vengeance plus mastery combo is a little bit of a the mastery plan is or the combo of that. It's only a small component, because you really don't want to try to aim for something that ridiculous, but the effect is. I think just being able the interaction of being able to mastery and then use those try to really bank on multiple planeswalker activations is a very, very. I've really been happy with how that has kind of worked. So, and now I have to decide again. I have not been going on the mill plan, which is why I think there may have been a misstep there for reference. I would want to consider whether I should have been going on the middle plan during that chain of extra turns, because I think that might have been a little better. But otherwise,
I think you would have won if you had milled on all of your extra turns.
I think after I looked at the deck count, or the card count on the opponent's deck, and then realized, 34 cards. I think just going for the mill there would have been a lot more power, just better plan. But unfortunately, that cannot be helped now. Tap more correctly, because tapping correctly is good. And other than that, I think the mastery plan is good. Like I think having more planeswalkers really allows you to, and then if you are able to successfully combo off, it's quite nice. There's other interesting things too. Just had to check the mana counts. The other nice things about it are, is that right? Yes, that would happen to be right. And then I have to set up the auto yields, which I will do in a sec. There we go. Okay.
Yeah, I think Draco there is really good for your style of deck.
Yes, that's why I didn't really mention what he was until after the after he actually came into play, just to keep a little bit of a surprise factor. But basically, the idea behind Draco Genius is that I was really excited, and of course, again, like talking while playing, I have to make sure that I'm not doing anything stupid while I try to do both at once. A little bit difficult for me still. But the idea behind Draco Genius was that Niv, come on, like I'm not really, I mean, I definitely have that Timmy in me, but being able this Niv, the kind of the reverse Niv of, like, say, compared to the Fire Mind, the original Ravnica block on Niv, was just really, 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 really awesome. I just love the kind of the new kind of style that he's designed him with the new Return to Ravnica. So, and it was cool and all, but I'm affiliated with Azorius, so I am not really not quite as excited by the Izzet leagues, like their kind of cards. Like there's not as much raw card advantage and like things like Supreme Verdict. But once I started messing with the deck, and it's like, oh my god, this card is absolutely insanely awesome. So after I started testing with this, like, oh geez, yeah, I really like this. I think now I'm going to go on the mill plan because I'm pretty certain that was a mistake at that point. Mm-hmm. I should have just been going more on the mill plan more aggressively, but just, can't be helped at this point. So, oh well. As for, I might as well, while I'm doing this, as for the sideboard plans, sideboard plan involves a bunch of counter spells for various controlling matchups, any kind of thing where I might want to have, just because the main deck does not have a lot of counter magic, so I'm using, actually I should, yeah, and again, like Alchemist Refuge, and I actually didn't even make it uncounterable rather. Yeah, that's really pro play right there. IR pro.
Have you thought about Izzet Charm in the main deck?
I did actually test Izzet Charm. One of the things I tested in the early version of the build. The problem with Izzet Charm is that it feels, how do I describe it? It's kind of an aggressive card. It's awesome. I love Izzet Charm. It's an amazing card, and I loved all the charms, all of the different Return to Ravnica, or the Return to Ravnica block charms. But the Izzet Charm, the one, I think part of why I feel it's aggressive has to do with the fact that it's a very, like, using like the Spell Pierce kind of mode is a little more aggressive. It's a little bit more, it doesn't really work as well in the, why is it? Oh, because it's a different Niv Mizzet, so it's not auto-yielding now. Oops. But it's a little bit, there we go. Just have to set the new auto-yields. And draw a bajillion cards, because drawing a bajillion cards is awesome.
Kendall, I'm really sad that you haven't gotten to resolve an unexpected results yet.
Aha!
I see.
This game has been weird.
Yeah, but that's how these matchups go, though. So it's not, it just happens to be these they turned out pretty grindily, making a new word there.
I don't remember putting these Transguild Promenades in this deck either.
That's also, I was actually kind of curious about that. Oh, there's the Unexpected. Okay, that makes sense. All right, so that's cool. Yeah, Unexpected is a fun card.
Yeah, there was already one in the graveyard, so I figured it wasn't spoiling.
Okay, yeah, I didn't notice it, but I figured when you're in band colors, like, it's probably, I don't know, I'm just gonna tap that Promenade for kicks.
I assume that the theory was that I'm like fully on in 3 colors or something, but I do not remember putting those Promenades in this deck.
I think that you don't want it. Just gonna go out on a limb here.
And then make this session. Alright, thank you for the game.
Yeah.
So sideboarding for these grindy matchups, I think the plan, and again, I'm not gonna say anything specific, and maybe until after like the post game review. But I think the big thing I've been noticing in these kinds of grindy matchups are, and depending on whether they have any kind of big creatures, like for the ones that are maybe using Grizzlebrand, like you do need to keep some kind of removal in. But the cards I like, though, I generally have found that the biggest kinds of the big gains come in the counterspells. Counterspells help to deal with like Sphinx's Revelation and the ones that are running white for it. and also any kind. Maybe planeswalkers also do play a big part. But the removal, depending on how I used to actually was actually running some spot removal in the early build of the deck, but well, and that usually got boarded out. But what I've been finding is also that there doesn't really seem to be a lot of change that you want to make. Like for the most part, the plan is basically it's pretty much you just don't really want to change a whole lot in the main deck. So I've been not making a whole lot of changes.
Okay, so the Transguild Promenades are supposed to be temple gardens.
Oh,
Oh,
I must have misclicked when I put the deck together because this is like I said, this is a different computer.
Oh, that's right. That's right. So that's what's going on. Okay, cool.
that makes
cool,
a lot
cool.
of sense.
That makes perfect
So
sense.
basically, you guys are both removing all of your removal for dispels and the flood, whatever the flooding anti-mill card is.
Oh, Psychic Spiral.
Yeah, Psychic Spiral. Basically, every time I have a blue deck, I have 3 or 4 dispels and at least 1 Psychic Spiral on the sideboard, just against like the matchup where everyone wants to kill themselves.
Yes, exactly. Exactly. So it's what and that's the interesting thing too. I actually have not included the spirals in my build yet. I've been meaning to do so, and I just got busy after like testing and messing with it for a while. So unfortunately, that deck just did not work out. So that's just have to roll with it. But it is definitely it's a very fun card. I think it's a very interesting. Again, the dynamic of it is really cool. I like the idea of it. It's a nice kind of control. I guess a mirror breaker in terms of the control decks, the control mirrors. It's a fun card. It's neat, and it's nice to also have an anti-mill card that also can just. It's just very. There's an interesting tension behind it. It's interesting how it can go from Beatty winning the game to suddenly being completely owned by it, which is just like what you're milling that you were doing. So that was pretty awesome.
Oh,
What's lame is when it gets countered.
Yeah, that's also
and then
quite
your
true.
opponent combos off the next turn.
it did not immediately
Yes.
rejoin the match, so I only just rejoined. Sorry. All I've missed is a Farseek, I guess.
Besides like a turn 2 Farseek, so that's totally cool. And then Geist of Saint Draft. Oh yeah, that's actually a problem.
Should have guessed that was coming.
Yeah, should have seen that was coming.
It doesn't help that I know in advance that basically every one of Kendall's decks that has blue and white will play Geist.
Yeah, I mean, and I remember when the card was
because I
spoiled, too.
have them. They're expensive.
Yeah, you gotta use your bling. Got to use the bling. Oops, just tapped on there.
Snapcaster being there is an answer though.
Yeah, that's another tension too. Like the thing about that's the cards like Geist are just so annoying, and you have to have the mass removal. Like that's the other thing that I was also testing. Like with the certain cards that are annoying, like Aristocrat, like the Blasphemous Axe. If there's often that tension of not having the mana to be able to do stuff. Oh, nice, that's cool. So it's a little bit tough to have the. That can be annoying at times. So I've not been necessarily thrilled with Blasphemous Act. That's why was thinking about going into the 4th color for white, just because Seek's Revelation is such a powerful card, and just the mass removal of the mass removal of having like just the Supreme Verdict just kill everything. It seems like it's going to be. I think it'll be willing to try and go that direction, but I didn't want to make that change until after. It was after I really had a good amount of time testing out the original idea, just to avoid getting a little too jumpy on it, trying to shift away from it. I will also note that one of the other things I was testing, like early notes for the deck, I actually was using Gilded Lotus as a mana accelerant, as just a test card, because it's a really fun card. And I really like that kind of jump, that really big kind of jump in mana. So I was testing it out as like a 2 of, and found that it was actually just not really. I mean, it definitely was awesome. I mean, having the extra mana really just allowed you to do a lot of good stuff. But I found that Urban Evolution, which was only a 2 of at the time, it was just really not. It was just not worth like trying to spend that much for the Lotus, and it was just probably better just to draw the cards and try to get the extra land drop. I felt like it was a little bit better.
I feel like if I feel like if your deck is maxing out at things that cost the same as Gilded Lotus, then it's probably a bad fit for your deck.
That's what I discovered. Yeah, you didn't really have the extra mana was not really helping unless you were comboing off and just doing like Temporal Mastery chains and that kind of stuff. It was all good, but it's
good in any deck that has Grizzlebrand, but otherwise it's not.
I was gonna say you had to add black for Bolus.
Yeah, there you go.
Oh yeah, I actually have been also considering black too because of the. Because of Dreadbore, and just again, like, trying to figure out ways for just any kind of creature removal or any kind of nice angles to try to smooth out the, say, annoying creatures. Of course, I always think of Gaddock Teeg for some, just because even though it's not in standard, it's kind of you need hate bears like that. You want to have some kind of answer for. Being used to like playing Legacy with a combo, you have to have some. You have to be prepared for those kinds of things, but.
You can also consider, since you've got so much mana going around, the Cyclonic Rift. I've had a lot of good luck with that, like against Planeswalkers, and really, it has a lot of versatility.
I used to play that in my turbofog deck.
And that actually is currently a one-of. I'm testing it as a one-of in the sideboard, and yes, it does. It's an awesome. Again, I love Return to Ravnica block in just in general has been like completely. The set is just such an amazing set, but also the fact that that card.
That's an expensive Explorer.
That was a very expensive Explorer, but it was unfortunately a necessary one.
Sometimes the best play is not one that is fun to make. Sometimes you have to make the empty triangle.
Yeah, the empty triangle. And that's the thing also. I think people get a little bit too crazy about shape. Like I think one of the and this is going to go on a side tangent. So people who don't know about Go, well, run away for a few minutes, and then I'll tell you when the coast is clear. The problem with a lot of players is that they just get so caught up in the kind of shape. Like it's such a they get so caught in kind of that idealistic shape that they end up hurting themselves from making plays that really are correct, even though they may not look right or they don't look intuitive. They really hurt themselves a lot that way.
That's really the same as like a lot of Magic players will say, "Oh, auras are always bad. Auras are always bad," and then Kendall plays his pants deck and beats the pants off them.
I have to say,
I said that when I first saw the auras deck, I was like, "That's bad," but yeah. Also, I mean, I think the last game when you were like, I probably should have switched to the mill plan, and then you waited 2 more turns to switch to the mill plan. That may have been an example of that.
Yeah, like, mill is bad, mill is bad. Oh, I should have milled because I would have won. Oops.
Right.
And people say the same thing about fog, so...
The Jacing decision's also a question, too. I think the problem was at that point was that in case I was unable to... unable to defend against like the combat, or in combat, it was a concern of trying to keep Jace's loyalty higher. So there's a lot of things just like it's just not. Also, as always, the excuses of like not being able to talk and play at the same time, but also trying to. The decisions with Jace are interesting, like when to mill, when to no, no sir, when to mill, when to try to draw the cards. Not overloaded. When to mill and when to try to just to draw the cards and try to dig deeper into the deck. It's an interesting decision, and it's definitely a little bit. It can be tough to figure out. But I think thinking back to the position though, the game state, I think it should have been clear that I think the mill plan would have been better. So it's just one of those things where I think it was just to not play the best line and just have to do better next time. It's something that should be easily fixable. So I just have to do some counting now.
In a similar thought to what we were talking about how sometimes the thing that you're always told is wrong is correct. I've heard sometimes when playing shock lanes or playing full sets of shock lanes might be bad just because especially right now with the current metagame, it's so aggressive that a lot of times playing too many Shocklands can hurt you. If you, for example, if I'm only playing two colors, it might be a lot better for me to only run partial sets or run just the M12 lands or whatever, just so I don't take extra damage.
The Shocklands are such a... I really appreciate their design because of the fact that they really were... I feel like they're such an excellent fixed version of the original Dual Lands. And I play Legacy for the record, so I play competitively, so I know going from them to Shocklands, the original Duels to Shocklands is definitely it's definitely a little bit, it takes some getting used to, but they are really a I feel like they're a fantastic design because of the simple dynamic that you have to make. You have to choose, are you going to, you have to trade life for faster mana development. That's a really great kind of, it's a very interesting challenge. I think it's a great kind of tension in terms of that end of the gameplay. Excuse me. So it's there, and I definitely agree with that too. I think there are definitely positions where you don't really want to. The Shocklands, because again, like the more you draw them, the more that is definitely an issue with having a lot of them. Is that you do get situations where you have to may get cornered and not be able to play an untapped land without getting shocked, and the life total really doesn't matter. Ouch. Oh no!
Oh yeah, I forgot it's non-creature permanent. I was
No, Niv is safe.
It's not always. It's not destroy target land.
I for some reason was remembering that was the ability, and it's like, oh wait, there's more.
Oh, it's like those as seen on TV ads. Well, wait, there's more. If you want to write down the next 10 minutes, we'll include a second thing free.
Kendall, I think this is the one matchup where you really wish that you had a Conjurer's Closet in the sideboard.
Oh, yeah, that
I've got the
fun card.
I've got the one of what's his name?
Are you cheating and playing Venser?
No, the Deadeye Navigator.
Oh yeah, there you go. I forgot that
card. Yeah, there you go. That's a cool.
And one. I've done the blow up lots and lots of stuff with it, but
I mean, it would definitely just win this matchup pretty handily if it stayed alive, which you're not against that much removal, so it probably would.
Yeah, and you have to have, like, I guess Ancient Grudge that's another card I'm testing is Ancient Grudge because it's just an efficient artifact removal, but it's a question of, again, like how many artifacts are really in the format that you want to be dealing with. So that's why I'm only testing one right now, just to see, just to see, because it's just so good with the flashback that I might as well start with one, then if I really need it, to go for two.
It's really just like very rare staffs, but more often the pike.
Yes, the pike is a very important card. So
I'd rather play, if you're really worried about the pike, I'd rather play like Tormod's Crypt or something to get rid of the graveyard, because that doubles as graveyard removal.
That's true.
That's a good point.
True. That is definitely a good point.
I was thinking play something that destroys enchantment or artifact, just because there are so few artifacts that you'll rarely need to flash it back. But yeah, I can definitely see Tormod's Crypt as being a good answer for it.
Yes, absolutely. Absolutely.
So, wait. Kendall, your deck is playing both Staff and Nin. Is that in the main deck, or is it just sideboard?
Yeah, 2 copies of Staff of Nin in the main deck.
So, your deck is un-nin-spected results. Yeah, that's it. That's where we're going with this.
That's kind of the plan here. I see where this is going.
Pretty awesome. Oh wait, I have reach. What am I doing?
Yeah. Oh, yeah. That's actually a good spot. I think I lose this game anyway, though. So
Yeah, I was gonna say if he was hacking, that looks good for you.
Yeah, and if the blood reach, I looked at, and of course there's another cognitive lapse. I did not forgot about the reach plan. So, or the reach play, or the reach ability rather. So, oops to that. Okay.
This is going to be a fast game.
It's gonna have to be because
Got
I
5 minutes left on your clock.
lost a lot of time, so it's unfortunate, but I'll have to talk less and play more after the match is over for post-game commentary.
Do y'all read much?
Not as much, like just like generals, like books.
Yeah.
Yeah, not as much.
Cool.
I think my having to read like very dense, horrifically dry texts in high school killed it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
I
I recently finished one, so I was curious.
The last several years I've been most of my reading has been dominated by my project to read every single Star Wars novel ever written.
Oh.
Yeah. So
That's cool.
yeah, it's like a quarter of the way through or something. I've read a lot.
That's some.
And it depends. It depends whether you count the stuff that like I read in high school or like that I've heard on book on tape like when I was like 12.
Yeah.
Sure.
But
that sounds like something you really have to commit to.
yeah, I have a checklist.
Yeah. I thought about getting the what is the Sci-Fi Award, whatever it's called, and the Sci-Fi Award checklist winner for the last 100 years, and just reading all of them. But that's a checklist I want to go through someday. Oh, awesome! I love acidic slime so much.
Yeah, I'm just gonna concede now because I don't think I'm gonna be coming out from that one. So thank you very much for the games.
Yep.
All right.